right. Let's get more on all of this. And, we're talking about Secretary of Blinken's visit. It comes amid a deepening humanitarian crisis that we've talked about a lot as well in Gaza. United Nations today warning that help for civilians is arriving, quote, too little and too late. Arwa Damon joins us, the veteran war correspondent, documentary director, founder of the International Network for Aid, Relief and Assistance, which provides care for children impacted by war and natural disasters. So you've been saying this from the beginning, and this just adds to it that, yeah, too little, too late, I guess, is the way to put it, right?
Too little, too late, and too little access to the population in need. I mean, look, the World Health Organization is saying that they have not been able to reach the northern parts of Gaza since around December 26th. They have not been able to supply any of the hospitals that remain there, keeping in mind that these hospitals are barely functioning, if that at best. And a number of other hospitals that are in the central and in the southern part of Gaza have had to shut down as well. We're hearing from doctors who were in one hospital in particular that saw many of the staff there forced to evacuate, that they were treating, for example, a barely 1-year-old child who had a leg and an arm that had been amputated on the floor because there weren't any operating rooms. There weren't even any beds to be able to properly provide this child the treatment that they need. We've got increasing severe levels of hunger, disease that are spreading among the population. All of this is, of course, creating to this horrific sense of sheer and total desperation, which is driving people to take quite drastic actions. And so another great concern, of course, is the further breakdown of civil order as well. I mean, this is a humanitarian crisis of truly epic proportions.
Of epic proportions, indeed. I mean, as it unfolds, so does the war effort. It continues. If anything gets more aggressive. There was an Axios report earlier that was kind of interesting in terms of how Israel might handle this afterwards. I mean, Axios was reporting that the Israelis could look at all of this and take the people who had to evacuate the southern part of Gaza and threaten them to say, basically, you can't go back to the northern part of Gaza unless every hostage is released. What did you make of that, and how how realistic something like that might be, and how that might impact the dynamic?
I mean, it definitely does lend itself to becoming another sort of negotiation tactic. Look, on both sides of this, we've seen the hostages being used as a negotiation piece, which is most certainly not acceptable by international law. We've seen the Israelis use access to humanitarian aid being used as sort of a bargaining chip. And now, of course, this is, yet another option that could potentially end up being on the table. And it does cause grave concerns. We've also been hearing the Israelis saying, as you were mentioning there, that they are going to be, decreasing the intensity of the bombardment, that there's going to be a shift into a new phase. But that's not really the reality on the ground at all. If we look at just a 24-hour period that happened around 2 days ago, there were 250 people who were killed in that. The bombing of the south and the central part of Gaza is just as intense as it was in the north. There's obviously a lot of doubt and lack of trust on all sides in this. Yeah. And again, it goes back to this whole saying of the civilians are the ones who are suffering. The civilians are the ones whose lives are quite literally being played with.
You think Blinken's getting through to anyone, Secretary Blinken, in terms of, I mean, I would say that his efforts or his goal seems to be to try to calm things down and address the humanitarian concerns that you're bringing up in some way, shape, or form. Do you think he's getting through in any, or having any impact?
It's really tough to tell, because on the back end of any of these trips, when we hear Secretary Blinken's rhetoric, he most certainly makes it seem as if he is getting through to the Israelis and that there are certain changes that are going to be made. Mm-hmm. But then when we look at what actually happens on the ground, absolutely nothing changes in the slightest. And so then that, of course, begs the question of, are the Israelis listening at all to what the Americans are actually saying and asking of them? And we have, in fact, heard from numerous senior Israeli government officials that, quite frankly, they don't really care what it is that America wants, because what they want is very clear. They want the eradication of Hamas, and that, of course, is going to mean the eradication of Gaza, and whatever happens to the civilian population from the Israeli perspective, well, so be it, because they're going to continue claiming that it's not their fault, it's Hamas's fault, and that they had no other option. The U.S. is trying to sort of walk this line where they do at least hold on to a certain modicum of morality and try to draw lines in the sand when it comes to what they will at least permit Israel to do. But again, it's lines in the sand, and the Israelis are just brushing all over them.
Yeah, the veteran war correspondent Arwa Damon helping us with our coverage throughout. We appreciate that. Thanks for coming on again. Thanks so much for watching. Just go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.